We're going to get started this hour with a major storm system making its way across the country. In Northern California, near the Nevada border, several feet of snow have blocked roads and made travel nearly impossible. And then a little further south in Big Sur, raging floodwaters caused a landslide, as you can see here, that washed away part of this highway Monday afternoon.
The federal government's Storm Prediction Center issued this year's first level 4 out of 5 risk for severe weather in parts of Oklahoma and North Texas. Overnight, the area around Dallas was hit with golf ball-sized hail, damaging homes and businesses and bringing down power lines. And in Oklahoma, this suspected tornado was spotted just northwest of Oklahoma City. Forecasters are expecting more funnel clouds throughout the week.
For a closer look, let's get a check on your morning news now weather.
Meteorologist Angie Lassman joins us now with the forecast. Angie, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. You said it. We've got another chance for some of that really difficult weather today, potentially becoming strong to severe when it comes to tornadoes, hail, wind gusts, some flooding. It's all on the table. Here's the deal right now. We wake up to some folks under this tornado watch. You can see it extends across much of parts of the Ohio Valley. We've got some warnings up right now as well, and just a really robust line of thunderstorms that's going to continue marching its way to the east across this region through the day today. We're also going to start to see plenty of rain working through even as we look a little farther to the east. That's why we've got these flood watches up right now. 16 million people included in those, from Indianapolis to Pittsburgh and down towards Charleston, including Cincinnati too. And what you see in the blue and the pink and the white, those are winter alerts. We've got 4 million people in those alerts at this hour, parts of New England, parts of the Great Lakes, as we see the potential for some snow and difficult travel in those regions over the next day or so. Here's the deal with the system. It's going to eventually work its way a little farther to the east. Today, the biggest thing that we're going to watch for, those dangerous thunderstorms as they march east. We're also going to watch for that snow that I mentioned, along with some gusty winds. It's going to make travel difficult across this region, and we'll start to see some of that snow and the wintry mix working into parts of New England as we get into tomorrow. Here's the afternoon and evening areas that I really want you to pay close attention to. Places like Cleveland, all the way down to Mobile, have a good chance of seeing some of these stronger storms develop. Where you see the orange and the red, though, that's where we're watching for the greatest potential for those long track tornadoes, those larger, stronger tornadoes. EF2 or higher, places like Columbus, Lexington, Nashville, Tupelo, Birmingham, all included in that area that we're specifically going to watch to have all the ingredients here as we get into the afternoon and evening hours to see some of those develop. Of course, a much bigger area is included in that, the Atlanta metro, Montgomery, out towards Roanoke. As we go through the afternoon, the potential, again, still there to see the hail as well as the gusty winds up to 70 miles per hour. The rain is going to be a big issue, too, and it's going to be repeated rounds across much of parts of the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. We'll see a couple of strong storms tomorrow from New Jersey to Florida, but the severe risk isn't quite as robust as what it is today, but it's not zero, so there's that. We've still got the heavy snow and the winds across parts of New England and the Great Lakes. You're not done with the snow just yet. We'll see that last, unfortunately, even into Thursday. It'll be chilly behind this system, too, and we'll be picking up a good substantial amount of not just rain, but some snow, too. Here's that rainfall forecast, though, as we get through Thursday. The bullseye for the highest amounts, 1 to 3 inches, is going to be across places like New York and Pennsylvania, where we'll see those higher amounts, but still quick, heavy downpours not going to be out of the question. So some flooding in those localized roadways and ponding on those areas is not going to be out of the question either. I mentioned the snow and the winds. This is going to give us the potential to see those blizzard conditions in some of these areas. I know it's April, and this is not what you want to hear, but unfortunately, parts of New England will have to deal with that as that really powerful April storm system moves away, guys. It leaves some winds and some chilly conditions in its wake, hence the reason that we're concerned for the blizzards. Yeah. But we've also got those strong storms on the table for today, so a lot for people to keep track of.
Busy day for you. All
Indeed.
right.
Certainly.
Thanks,
Angie, thank you.
Presidential primaries are taking place in multiple states today, including Wisconsin and New York.
Yeah, but we're focusing in on the key battleground state of Michigan, which President Biden took by over 150,000 votes back in 2020. Well, presumptive Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump is holding an event in Grand Rapids later today where he is expected to speak about immigration and border policy.
NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster is in Grand Rapids for us this morning. So, Shaq, Trump is back campaigning after more than 2 weeks off the trail. Talk to us about what he's expected to say today. Why is he giving this speech on immigration in Michigan?
Hi there, and good morning to you. Yes, we'll hear Donald Trump talk about an issue we hear him talk about a lot, and that is immigration. I'm told he'll have a roundtable discussion where we'll see elected officials, local party leaders, and members of law enforcement present, and then Donald Trump will come out and give remarks to members of the media. And, you know, we can expect to hear, according to his campaign, at least based on their signals, we'll hear a lot about a woman named Ruby Garcia. She's a 25-year-old woman from Grand Rapids who police say was killed by her boyfriend last month by someone who is in the United States illegally and was deported back to Mexico back in 2020. It's a case that Republicans here in the Grand Rapids area have brought up repeatedly, although it's important to note that Ruby's sister, Maria, has said that she doesn't like how her sister's death is being caught up in this political debate, guys.
Shaq, how are voters there responding to Trump's rhetoric on immigration? Tell us broader what you're hearing.
Yeah, good question, because this is a county, Kent County, that we've been focused on extensively and will be focused on through the election. It's a county that President Joe Biden flipped in 2020 after it was traditionally Republican in the past. And I want you to listen to what moderate voters, including people who voted for Donald Trump in the past, had to say.
No, you know, as I said, sadly, this world is broken. And that stuff happens no matter if you're a U.S. citizen or you're an immigrant.
There's definitely a problem at the border, but there doesn't seem to be a kind of a clear discussion of the issues that could be a good solution to that.
With the immigration and the problem at our border, it really needs to be in control. I have no problem with anybody coming over, but it would be great to have the paperwork and being able to make sure that we're not letting all the criminals come over.
And in each of those conversations, I brought to those voters directly what we can expect to hear from Donald Trump today. And you see that mixed reaction. It's a sign and reminder that as we shift from the primary election to the general election, the audience and the people that Donald Trump will need to win over will also change.
So, Shaq, what are we hearing from Democrats there about Trump's visit to Grand Rapids?
Yeah, they're saying he's politicizing the death of Ruby. They're saying that it was Joe Biden who proposed and who supported a bipartisan border security proposal that Donald Trump ended up killing back in January. And then you have local Kent County Democrats with this statement here. I want to pull it up on screen. They're saying that Trump chooses not to honor her memory as a victim of domestic violence, but rather of that of her killer, who happens to be an undocumented immigrant. They go on to say Ruby Garcia died because her boyfriend had an illegal gun, regardless of her immigration status. Again, Ruby's sister is frustrated that this has kind of gotten wrapped up in the political debate. Donald Trump has said on a radio show that he would like to see her family, or at least is extending the invitation for her family to go to the event. No word on whether or not we'll see them there.
All right, Shaq, thank you so much.
Well, meanwhile, former President Trump's legal troubles are again in the spotlight this morning. Trump has posted a $175 million bond in his New York civil fraud case. The bond was reduced from the original $464 million judgment that was set to be due on March 25th.
Back in February, a judge found Trump and his company committed business fraud in a civil suit brought by New York Attorney General Letitia James. Now, looking ahead, Trump's criminal hush money trial is set to begin April 15th, and the judge presiding over that case is now expanding a partial gag order. This follows the former president's online attacks against the judge's daughter. Trump is now barred from attacking the judge's family members and relatives of Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg.
NBC News legal analyst Danny Cevallos joins us now to break this down. Danny, good morning. So let's get started with the bond posted in the New York civil fraud case. So we know Trump's lawyers had appealed that $464 million. Now that's making its way through the courts. Where does that appeal stand? And tell us what happens either way here, if he wins, if he loses.
Well, now they brief the issues, and the case hangs out in the appeals court until the appeals court decides the issue. Maybe they have oral argument. But the bottom line is it's going to be pretty quiet at the appellate court now that the bond has been posted. That means that the Attorney General cannot begin enforcement proceedings. And Donald Trump really got a break here because ordinarily you have to post a bond as a condition of appealing the case, with the idea being that you can't spend all your money that you would have given to the plaintiff by appealing your case and then have nothing left at the end of the appeals. So this will proceed like any other appeal of a judgment, and and Trump's going to try and make the argument of different legal issues on appeal, just like any other appellant does in the state court system.
Let's talk about the hush money case, which is set to go to trial shortly. Of course, he's accused of falsifying business records related to these alleged hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. He's pleaded not guilty, but this partial gag order, which has now been expanded. Any surprise it's been expanded, considering what the former president was saying about the judge's daughter?
Yes and no. I originally did think that the Judge Merchan in this case may have omitted himself on purpose as kind of like a noble, hey, you can make fun of me, just don't make fun of all these other people. But apparently Judge Merchan thought enough was enough and decided to expand the order. He can still, as I understand the order, the judge himself can be criticized, but any one of us can imagine, given the opportunity to protect our family members from this kind of vitriol, that we would do it. By the way, I have to add that there may be an argument, although Judge Merchan's already dismissed the original recusal motion, but there may be circumstances where a family member may be so closely involved, say, with the Democratic Party, that you could have a recusal motion or a motion to be made by your attorneys. But what Trump did instead is take to social media and attack family members. That's really what this gag order is about. It does not prevent issues arising later that might justify a recusal motion. It just prevents him from getting on social media and possibly polluting a jury pool or intimidating witnesses or intimidating family members.
Also in this hush money case, so we're hearing from a source with direct knowledge, NBC News has learned about somebody that potentially is a witness here. This is former White House Communications Director Hope Hicks, expected to be a witness for the prosecution. How important would that be?
Yeah, I'm fascinated by this because she came in with her attorneys to talk to prosecutors about a little over a year ago. And we don't know exactly what she told them. But the way I see this is that Trump factually, at least, has denied this hush money payment. And Michael Cohen is really the government's, or I should say, the people's star witness against Donald Trump. So it may be the case that Hope Hicks is just sort of a foundational witness. Maybe imagine, for example, a meeting where Trump says, close the door, I want to talk to Michael Cohen. And Hope Hicks saw that. She may not have any actual incriminating information, but she may set up the scene. The other possibility is that Trump flat out told her, hey, I'm making these hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. That just doesn't seem as likely to me, given how Trump denies and denies and denies in the face of overwhelming evidence to the contrary. So it may be that Hope Hicks is just a foundational witness, someone who sets the scene, but maybe she's someone that Trump confided in, and maybe that's the information that she has. I still think Michael Cohen's going to be the state's star witness here.
Yeah. Danny Savalas, thank you.
Today marks 1 week since a cargo ship slammed into Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge. Already, officials say crews have opened a narrow channel, giving recovery vessels access to the sea. NBC News correspondent Aaron Gilchrist reports.
Authorities battling more bad weather and the urgent mission to get a portion of the Baltimore Port back open, announcing a temporary channel now complete.
It will help us to get more vessels in the water around the site of the collapse.
We were out on the water with the Coast Guard.
With this temporary shipping channel now open, we're seeing one of the first ships to go through. Off in the distance here, a barge being pushed by a tugboat.
The operation in full swing 6 days after the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed when a container ship struck one of its pillars.
We know crews were out this weekend with cutting torches, slicing these pieces of metal. You're looking at now some of the first pieces that were cut, and they're waiting to be removed.
The new 11-foot deep temporary shipping lane expected to allow only vessels essential to salvage operations. More than 370 engineers, technicians, logistics experts, and others working around the clock. The plan, clear the bridge wreckage from the channel, stabilize the dolly, remove the bridge span from its bow, and eventually remove some cargo containers so the massive ship can be refloated and brought back to port. All of this expected to take weeks at least.
We're going to move as rapidly as possible, but we're going to continue to do it safely.
Every day the port remains closed could have a major impact on both the supply chain and the 8,000 jobs that directly depend on this busy waterway being open. 140,000 workers have some connection to this shipping hub.
It stung, seeing it come down.
Chris Elliott is a longshoreman, the folks who handle all the products moving from ship to shore at the port. Since the bridge collapse, Chris has been in limbo.
The uncertainty has to be hard, though.
Yeah, it is. It's every day you're thinking about the future and the uncertainty. You lose some sleep over it, got bills to pay.
We're also learning the owner of the container ship has petitioned a court to limit its liability for the accident. And President Biden plans to visit the wreckage site on Friday.
Back to you.
Aaron Gilchrist, thank you.
Well, officials are considering both state and federal charges this morning for a man who allegedly rammed into a barrier at the FBI's Atlanta field office on Monday. FBI officials say the Buick Encore with South Carolina license plates tried to follow an employee's car through the gated entrance without stopping. And that is when, as you can see on your screen right here, that wedge barrier popped up and the suspect rammed into it. But that was not enough to stop him. Officials say that the man then got out of the car and tried to run inside past the gate, and that's when he was tackled by several special agents who were passing by. No weapons were found inside the car. The suspect was taken to the hospital for evaluation.
Convicted murderer Alec Murdaugh was sentenced to another 40 years in prison for stealing millions of dollars from his legal clients. He was also ordered to pay more than $8 million in restitution to his financial victims. Murdaugh, a former personal injury lawyer, faced a harsher sentence, but the judge will let him serve his prison sentences for federal and state crimes concurrently. Murdaugh was already sentenced last year to life in prison without parole for the murders of his wife and one of his sons.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.